Since then, I've moved on to a faculty position at Western, where I spend part of my week at Western and do telemedicine and some other things. From the standpoint of why I'm running, I think this is an outstanding school district. We're doing most of the things very well. We can always make improvements, and it's my hope to use sort of my expertise as a pediatric neurologist as that sort of collective intelligence within the board to provide another set of ideas.
Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Susan Estep. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, I do have to do this. Can you hear me now? Okay. So just a heads up, I'm sick right now, so I don't always sound like this. So again, my name's Susan Estep. I want to thank the students for helping, put this on. I'm very excited to see what questions you come up with. And there's community members, thank you, teachers, kids, students. I earned my master's degree in educational leadership from Eastern Michigan University. Prior to that, I went to Virginia Tech and got my bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies. I've worked in education for 10 years. I've worked at the University of Michigan. I'm currently on their Dearborn campus and also Eastern Michigan University. Ooh, quick. So some of the programs that I've worked on is service learning programs, academic and mentoring at-risk students, student athletes, student parents, and I really think it's going to be a really good bridge from Saline area
Thank
school.
you so much. Thank you.
Oh.
I cut you off.
It goes quickly.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Stebbin. I'm very happy to be here again. Thank you for the students and Tran and everyone for putting this on. And thank you for being part of the audience and my fellow candidates. Really, really nice to see so much interest in our schools and having 6 of us run. That's pretty exciting. I am the mother of twins in 4th grade at Heritage. By day, I'm the vice president of an educational software company. I've been in the ed tech space for about 20 years now. I'm really involved in the community. I do a lot of things with our PTAs and PTOs. I'm the former president of the PTA at Pleasant Ridge Elementary. I sit on the District Parents Council for 2 years. I'm a chair of the Chad Tuff Foundation. I'm a fundraiser and Snow Blast Committee member for the Foundation for Saline Area Schools. I teach junior achievement, and I also teach Girls on the Run. So pretty involved and really excited to see what you guys have to ask us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. Again, thank you to everybody for showing up this evening. My name's Scott Hummel. My wife is Molly. My kids are Harper and Haley. I've been an educator for 22 years. I've been in the elementary, the high school. I've been a little bit in administration. I now serve as a truancy officer. So I've literally spent my life in public education and teaching and working with kids. I've been deeply involved in that. I bring that career experience as the only incumbent running for re-election. I blend those two together, hoping to continue the excellent schools that we have and continue what we've started. Aside from school and aside from working within the district, I volunteer and I'm on the board of directors for Saline FC. I run one of the divisions for Sabies. I am the president of York Place Homeowners Association. These affiliations have allowed me to create relationships throughout the district, relationships I want to extend.
Thank you so much.
My name is Richard Kahn. I've lived in the district for 21 years. I'm an alumni parent. My children graduated in 07, 09, and 13. In fact, the last time I was in this building was, I think, 03. I'm currently the CFO for a privately held manufacturing company in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We have a worldwide footprint and in excess of 400 employees. Finance and HR are my background. When I looked at the material for what a board member is supposed to do, I condensed it to envision the district's future, ensure district resources, evaluate, hire, and work closely with the superintendent, monitor district performance, and advocate for students in public schools. So I believe in all of those things. I believe in the Saline schools. I'm retiring in January, and I'm ready to give back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tom Frederick, and this is payback for any of my former students, because now I'm on the spot and have to come up with things in front of the crowd ad hoc, so I know how you felt for those 23 years. I've been a member of the community for 23 years. I've been a teacher and a coach in Saline High School. I remember when this was the high school library, and I was a member of the Saline Education Association governing board for 6 of my years as a teacher. I was a member of the Safe Schools Committee for 2 years as a high school teacher. I've pretty much given most of my life, or at least a good part of my adult life, to the Saline Area School District, and I loved every minute of it. You may have seen me running around your neighborhoods with a group of guys behind me. With 7 children of my own, 4 in the district right now, I want to make sure that the academic standards and accessibility and mutual respect for all students is maintained. Thanks for having me tonight.
All right, thank you so much. So to briefly go over the debate for tonight. Sorry, this mic is not on. To briefly go over tonight, so candidates will have 1 minute to respond to an open-ended question, as well as a 1-minute rebuttal statement. So we'll start with candidate number 1, with question number 1.
Are the questions directed to a specific candidate?
No, the questions are for all the candidates to answer.
And
So-
just a quick question, will it change, like, the
Yeah.
first
Like your
person?
candidate one
All right.
or whatnot.
Okay.
We can start in the end with you, but the first question we have tonight is, what's your opinion on the district's move away from the traditional classroom, and how would you assess requests to fundamentally change the way Saline students learn in school? We can start with you, Dr. Wood.
So as a parent, my kids have really flourished in the change from what a lot of us experienced, were the rows and the forward and the blackboard. There are so many different, the way kids learn. As a pediatric neurologist, we know there's so many different learning styles and the ways that kids are able to learn. And that one old way, forward-facing, same chairs, does not focus in on the varying styles of learning. And so I've seen personally how that has been helpful for my own kids. From a professional standpoint, taking care of kids with learning disabilities and special needs on a regular basis, it has been very helpful. I think looking at anything, you got to look at the data, look at the research, make sure it's sound. As a scientist, that's what I would be doing in order to assess it. You got to make the best decision based on the data that you have.
Oh, we're going down the line. Okay. As Brian mentioned, I have seen the benefit of this. My son, I didn't get to say it earlier, is a 3rd grader at Woodland Meadows, and he was fortunate the first couple years to be in the next generation classrooms, and he is very energetic, moves around, and so that's been a really wonderful space for him to learn in. Also, making a visit to the middle school and high school was wonderful. I got to see the students in the classroom interacting in those groups and really engaged in the work, and I think that's a benefit to help them, think critically and become leaders. Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
It's okay. I would just say, look at where we're sitting. I mean, this is an incredible space. This is a building that's been in our district a long time, and reusing resources that we put money into and repurposing it for the current generation of students and the way that they learn is just incredible. Several breakout rooms over there, a big classroom space back here. I have twins, they're active, they like to run around. Movement is very, very important, particularly in K-5. So I fully support rooms like this and the rest of the rooms in the district that are now the norm. You know, when you think about, there's something called a learning pyramid. And when you think about a lecture format like this with me speaking with you or the candidate speaking with you, you retain 5% of that speech. And when you dig down and you start to demonstrate and you start to teach others, that learning retention increases and it can increase up to 90%. And I think that's really, really important.
Thank you, Candidate.
Moving away from the traditional classrooms, obviously, as Stebbins said, if you look around, this is not a traditional classroom. This is not a traditional area. I have twins as well, and going through school, they're very different. Their personalities are very different. And if you watch them now, you know, my son is going to be looking all over the room. My daughter will be locked in. That's just what they are. And as they've gone through their different classrooms in different grades, they've been able to learn in different ways. And that's what's so important, is allowing these kids the opportunity to get the education they need and allow them to learn in the way that works best for them. So whether it's an open space or allowing them to move or allowing them the soft seats or the wobble seats, high tables, low tables, whatever it may be, these teachers now, and we have a phenomenal staff, are finding these ways for these kids, and breaking away from that old traditional way and providing them this new way of learning is essential and is exactly what they need.
Thank you for your response.
So I'm a good listener, and I think of the process by which change is going to occur. So I've been to several board meetings, and there's been presentations about online learning, about how many classes the students can take versus being in the classroom. So I see this process in which the teachers and the community are going to submit ideas. The best ideas are going to flow up. We can't stop change, so we've got to be flexible. And then the board or the Scott's team, the executive team, will filter those ideas, and then the board will ratify those ideas. So I don't preclude anything. I would listen to all the ideas that come forward, and then predominantly default to the recommendations of the Scott and his team. Thank you.
Thank you for your response.
As far as innovating with technology in the classrooms, I think Saline is by far and away very advanced in that. I was a leader in innovation and technology infusion in the classroom even before it was very popular, and experienced the ups and downs of that. So I am a strong advocate of technology-based learning, online learning, but I am also guarded. As my own children have come up through the ranks and experienced different technologies, we run into some problems, and I wonder if we just need to be careful that we don't cause an accessibility issue. We live on the dirt roads, and our internet is terrible, and all of our textbooks are online. My son just last week was like, "Dad, I wish I just had a textbook that I could read." Like, well, you know, this is the way we're going. So I am excited about the innovation, but I'm also guarded and want to make sure that all students have access to whatever technologies we adopt.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Just for the people that I saw trickling in, once again, we are the Saline debate team asking and presenting these questions this evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. In addition, we have passed out cards, individual question cards to all audience members. We ask that you please fill them out if you have any questions, and at the end we'll go over them and ask the candidates the questions. Thank you so much. All right, next question. Sorry, actually, we have a minute for a rebuttal for each candidate. If you would like. You can also pass. Yeah, if you would like to.
If you want to add anything to your answer, just raise your hand before we go.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, we'll start here at the end.
Thank you. The one thing I would like to add to the conversation is the importance of piloting and testing before we implement any new innovations. As a teacher over the past 23 years, we've tried a lot of good things, and we tried a lot of good things without piloting them first, and the implementation was either a failure or a challenge for students and for teachers. So anything that we adopt, I'd be a strong advocate of that being tested, piloted, brought to the board for review, brought to executive leadership for review before we made that a direction that the district would go.
I would add, I know there's been a lot of debate about how much homework for kindergartners, first grade, second grade, third grade. I think the jury's out on that, but there's a lot of input coming in about whether we're stressing our children out, especially at a lower level. They're doing a lot of sports, they're doing a lot of other activities. So I think that's an area that's got to be looked at and some kind of consensus formed.
I just wanted to add that, and it kind of goes along with what Mr. Frederick said, but we need to be willing to allow people to fail. And learning occurs when failure happens, whether that's staff, whether that's students. Like the Summit Learning Program, we're going to try new things, and we want to be pushing the envelope. We want to be on the front edge of education. We want our kids to be the best and the brightest. In order to get that way, in order to get to that level, we have to be willing to take risks. By providing them the opportunity to take risks and fully supporting that, we're showing them that A, we support them, B, we're providing that opportunity, and it's okay if we do something and it doesn't work. We have to fully support that and let them know that, hey, you know what? It didn't work, we're gonna learn, we're gonna move on, we're gonna try something different. But just as a group, as a community, as a school board, we have to be willing to allow that to happen.
Okay, I guess everybody's saying something, so I'll chime in as well. We kind of strayed off the original question. We talked a little bit about online learning, digital textbooks, and homework. The thing I haven't heard so far is what do the teachers think? I'm a strong supporter of the staff of Saline area schools. And if we're talking about non-traditional classrooms and we're talking about innovation, I would ask them what they think and how this is working in their own buildings. I think they're a key part of this conversation.
I'll respond as well. So I guess looking from a university administrator standpoint, I think it's really important to see that connection. And I believe, at the university level, they're reading it online. They have their course materials, their readings, they respond online. So this is like an excellent way to prepare them for that, and also to prepare them for the workplace, their career, because we are doing that group work and interacting and making that successful, and to get used to that environment. So,
Just quickly add in making sure that kids with disabilities, kids with learning disabilities are thought of as we move in there. That's what I do all day long, every day, helping families navigate IEPs and 504 plans, and kids with seizures and kids in wheelchairs and CP. So just thinking about how the potential, how we use technology, and for kids with just ADHD and learning disabilities.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to go on to the next question now, and we're going to move on from Dr. Woodruff just down the table this way. So the question is, what are Saline area schools' best strengths to build on? What areas most need improvement?
all right. The strengths, I believe all of us who are at the school district and people who are wanting to come to the school district we know how wonderful the schools are and how high the graduation rate is. And so I think that's great. As far as what we could change, could be doing better, I think we need to look at children who are marginalized. So talking about, race, ethnicity, talking about students with disabilities, being out in the community and talking to parents. Whenever you say I'm running for school board, everybody spills it, right? So, being able to talk to them about their situations and how can we as a board support those students and staff members. So I think that's something we need to be aware of.
Thank you very much.
So for strengths, I wrote down several. I think we have a lot of strengths in Saline area schools. That's the reason I'm here. I want to help to continue to strengthen the community and the district. The staff is number one. They're the heart and soul of this. You know, the amount of time that our children spend with them, the things that they're learning, and the bonds that they're making are just so valuable. The bond of the community, I think, is something as well. Saline area schools is really part of this community. Just this past weekend, we did the Run Tough for Chad Tough event. It was a coordinated effort with the school district and with the foundation. I love the way that our community members really pull together when we need each other. I like that we try new things in Saline area schools. We've just been talking about a few with that last question. I like innovation. I like thinking about, Scott mentioned summit learning, trying new things and seeing how it works out. Weaknesses, I think we can continue to strengthen safety in the school buildings. Inclusion and diversity is something that we need to work on as well. And I'd like to see improved communication and stakeholders in the community coming and being involved with the board a little bit more.
Thank you very much.
As far as the strengths, I'll echo some of the same ones. I wrote down staff and students. Those are the obvious ones. I think we have the best staff anywhere, and our students are the best and the brightest. So to build around, those are the two places I would start. I think our facilities, for the most part, are second to none. If you look around our building right now, we've completely updated, yet we left the wood, which I think is awesome. The academic programs we have, the extracurricular programs we have, and the community buy-in are the other things I wrote down. The community of Saline loves the Saline schools, and too often that isn't the case in smaller towns. Sometimes they don't necessarily care. Saline loves the schools, and that's what we can really build everything around. As far as weaknesses, I want to make sure that we don't miss out the middle 50. We always look at the top 10% or 15 and the bottom 30. I always want to make sure that we find those middle 50 and don't let them get lost in the way. And that's one of the things I want to focus on.
Thank you very much.
So I think of a list of things, and some have already been repeated, but I think about the academics. My children were very well prepared for college, and if people took other paths, I think they were prepared also. Athletics, I go to a lot of the Friday night football games, and I don't think there's a community that has a better turnout than the Saline community. I graduated from Ann Arbor Huron. At that time, we had 2 high schools, and I just love being in a community that just has 1 high school. So we are all in it together, and I think that's fabulous. There was a presentation about seniority for the teachers, and it showed, I think, the person with the longest, about 35 years or something, so very low turnover. That's a verdict about how the teachers feel about the system and the schools, so I think that's evidence right there. Our facilities are top-notch. I remember when the children moved into the new high school, couldn't be any better. As far as weaknesses, I just think there's some issues we've got to sort out, whether it's the school of choice issue, and also as far as it relates to bond proposals and things like that.
Thank you very much.
The list is long. Saline really has a lot going for it. Academic excellence is without question. But I believe I'm going to list the strengths that came to mind, but every strength taken to an extreme can also be a weakness. And as far as academic excellence goes, it's easy to let the self-starters go and get their A's and get their great SAT scores and ACT scores and make us look good to U.S. News and World Report. But what are we doing for the bottom 25 to 30%? Are we meeting their needs? Staff, without question. We have one of the top staffs in the state of Michigan. I was part of them. I love them. I respect them. But one of my colleagues mentioned, the seniority showed that we're just doing it all right and people want to stay here. I would sadly beg to differ respectfully. There's been a lot of turnover at the high school. The World Languages Department has turned over almost completely in the past 5 years. What are we doing to ensure retention and also to draw new talent coming forward? And I'll save the rest of them for a later time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So our strengths, obviously I'm going to be repeating being the last person up, but academic performance of our students, dedicated teachers, completely agree, forward-focused education, and really award-winning vocational programs, from the welding program, the culinary program, our Future Farmer America program, and the ag program, just outstanding. As well as a fairly lean budget. If you look at where we are in the state and how much money we spend, just look at Ann Arbor and look at Saline and how much money is spent at an administrative level. Ann Arbor, top. Saline, bottom. We are incredibly lean, our administrative staff. Areas that, which is, I think is a great benefit because it puts money back into the classrooms. Where we need to improve. Teachers took a major cut 6, 7, 8 years ago. Took a lot of, they gave a lot back to the school district. If there's any way that we can find creative ways, lobby the state level, increase grant. Am I done?
Goes quickly.
It does.
I think it's going faster. I think it's going a little bit faster. Do we have a rebuttal?
Yes. Is it 30 seconds or a minute? It was
So-
30 seconds before.
We're actually going to switch to a 90-second response and a 30-second rebuttal now that we've gotten to know our candidates. So 30-second rebuttal if any of you would like.
All right, I'll finish up. So the areas that need improvement, we talked about teacher pay and benefits. I think we lack teacher diversity. We need to find creative ways to increase diversity among our teachers in the district. And finding teachers outside of our district, finding teachers that don't look like the rest of us, that don't think like the rest of us is going to be important. And lastly, improving support for students and families that struggle economically, medically, with mental health issues, personal issues, gender identity issues, developmental and learning challenges.
At the last board meeting, I thought it was just a wonderful event that occurred. I was there and I thought, wow, there's a lot of people here, must be something going on. And what was going on was that the district had asked all of the new hires to show up, to introduce themselves, come to the microphone, state their name, the position they were hired for, and what college they had graduated from or their background. So there was about 35 people that came and went through that process, and just sitting there listening, I heard the diversity of the people that we hired and all the colleges that they came from. There were big colleges, plenty of U of M and Michigan State, and there were smaller colleges like Siena Heights. So I thought that was very interesting.
Just a couple things that I would add on. We talked about applications of technology. I currently teach online right now, and I teach at the University of Michigan Hospital in the classroom. And there's nothing as good as a learning interface as a human interface with people in the classroom. Doesn't mean the desks need to all face forward and using the chalkboard, but nothing beats human interaction. As far as finances, I think that is a weakness of ours. We need to be more creative in alternative funding sources, and if you ask me questions about them, I'll happily give you some ideas.
I just wanted to touch on the fiscal responsibility. I think that Saline Schools does a lot with a little. We are near the bottom of what we get per pupil. When you compare it to Ann Arbor, we're not even close. And if you look, we're in the top 10 in the state of Michigan for the least amount spent on administration or on overhead, if you will. So we're not dumping our money into things that we don't necessarily need. We're putting it into programs, we're putting it into staff, we're putting it on the students where it belongs.
You knew we were all going to say something. I liked hearing the fiscal responsibility. I would agree with that. I would agree with our buildings as well. I wanted to expand a little bit on communication because I had brought up at the tail end. Hearing from you, hearing from the people in the community is so important, and hearing from the students. I think that's the other thing that I don't hear a lot about. What do the students think about some of our concepts, our classrooms, our programs? And I would like to hear more from them and work more with them.
Okay. So I want to touch on two things in 30 seconds. I guess in regards to the bonds that was mentioned, but it wasn't really expanded on. I'd like to hear that more, Richard Kahn. So how are you connecting your constituents? Something, going through these schools and seeing everything that's going on, I would love for our whole community to know. So not everybody's online on Twitter, looking at blogs. So how do we showcase everything? This is where your money's going. This is amazing. And then second one, I want to clarify when, inclusion and diversity, you walk in the schools, you can see that it is not diverse. And so that's students of color, faculty, staff of color, and we really need to focus on that and not lose those students and faculty and staff.
Thank you all for your responses. We're going to move on to the third question. So the third question is, when you serve on the board, who do you see yourself representing and working for?
And that
yeah,
one's
and
for
you're the
me?
first.
So I love this question. This was actually one that came out of a questionnaire that Tran sent to us that's coming out this weekend. So I look forward to all of you guys reading about what we had to say. The first thing I would say is I would be here for the students. That would be my first response. The number one responsibility is to provide a safe, wonderful environment to the students. We have an incredible student body. And making sure that they're safe, that they're happy. Brian, you mentioned emotional well-being, academically challenged, innovative. There's so many things. So I would say students first. Second, I would say it's a real partnership between the community, the board, and the school district, the staff, and the administration of Saline area schools. That's kind of how I see it. It's a big partnership. I'm involved in a lot of different things, and one of my favorite things to do is work with different groups and be collaborative and brainstorm solutions to problems, and I would look forward to doing that.
Like Julie said, first and foremost, it's about the kids. And like I said, I've spent 22 years serving communities, working for kids. When I wake up in the morning, I have my 2. When they get on the bus, all of a sudden, I have 5,250. That's the number of kids in the Saline schools, and that's who I'm here to represent. When I make decisions that focus on the kids first and what's best for them, whether it's building safety, whether it's technology, whether it's educational experiences, whatever it may be, those decisions have to drive learning and have to be something that promotes the student welfare. So the kids are my boss, kind of just like being at home. So the kids are my boss. Next comes community, like she said. I said before, Saline community loves the Saline schools. And so we need to make sure that every stakeholder has a voice and has input, and that their input is heard. And so my job, once I take care of the kids or try to help the kids as best I can, is to listen to anyone that has something to say. Take that, digest it, bring it to the rest of the board or talk about it with the board, and make sure that everybody's voice is heard. We want to make sure that everyone knows that they're valued and that what they say matters. And then moving forward into that, then it's the staff, then it's the administration, but they are sort of a sidelight to the kids. The kids are by far the most important thing in the school.
So I double-checked what the Saline Schools mission statement is, because if you would have asked me before starting this process, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what that was. So I want to read it only to get it right. It says, "We, the Saline area schools, will equip all students with the knowledge, technical proficiency, and personal skills necessary to succeed in an increasingly complex society. We expect that our students, staff, and Saline community will share in these responsibilities." So that's a beautiful statement right there. I accept the task of executing this statement, because that's what we're trying to do. So now the question is, how do we do that? From a board level, what we're told is that our leadership responsibility is we have really one person that we manage, and that's the school superintendent. So I think that's important that people realize that that is the one employee of the school board. It's not the principals, it's not the teachers, it's not the bus drivers, it's not any of these other people, it's the superintendent. So that's the model that we follow. So my goal is to fulfill this mission statement and to do it within the process that's been established. Thank you.
I think that the board serves the entire community, certainly primarily the students and the staff who work together in tandem, and all the support staff as well. But really, it's the whole community. There are people who, when I put up my support the bond issue sign, right down the street from me put up theirs, reject the bond issue sign, taxes are too high. And we have to respect the fact that there are people in our community that of all varying and diverse backgrounds and points in their life, and we need to serve them all. I think as a leader, the goal is to lead the people through servant leadership, and to do that by removing any obstacles that they have or impediments that they have, and to enable them to do the best that they possibly can, given the resources they have. And we have a ton of resources here in Saline.
So I wrote down the question. It was, who does the board serve? And I think it serves the citizens of the community. I mean, the focus, the difference between there's who do we serve and who do we focus on? I think there's a difference. We focus on the students, but we serve all the citizens. That's who elects this board. That's who we're beholden to. Just like a corporate board in a profit company would be beholden to the shareholders. The citizens are the shareholders of this community. They're the ones that pay the taxes. So I think there's a definite difference. And I think the board is important in that it sets the direction, it points the direction of the district, implements policy, but hopefully doesn't get bogged down in the day-to-day minutia of running a school district. I am not an expert coming from my background in running a school district. I'm an expert in childhood learning and development, and we have an outstanding administrative staff. We have an outstanding superintendent, and as a board, I hope in the next 6 years we don't have to be hiring a new superintendent. That'll be a real goal of mine, because I think the administrative staff that we have now is outstanding.
Okay. So student-centered, student-focused. With the SAS compass, I'm sure we've all heard about it. If not, it's awesome. Look it up. A big circle with many components for our students to become global citizens and citizens in our community. So, talking about, we're serving our citizens. These children are our future. They are the citizens that we need to be serving in the school districts. So the compass takes a holistic approach. So we're focusing on social, emotional, the learning piece, and the curriculum that we do is super important. And then that's where we come in, right? As far as like the board helping support, advocate at the state level to benefit our school district. So a higher level, but providing this holistic support of our students, teachers, staff, and then the whole community. It comes all together. So.
All right, we're going to do rebuttals now, so if anyone has any additional comments. All right.
I'll go if you want to just
Yeah,
go down the
go for
row
it.
here. I just wanted to come back to one thing Richard said. So it is true that the board has one employee, and that is Superintendent Graydon. That is true, but I think it's so much more. There are so many stakeholders, the students, everyone sitting in front of me, and everyone that couldn't be here tonight. It's a partnership, and though there's one true employee of the Board of Education, I think it's our job to serve the community.
I just wrote down that the board is about teamwork, and the teamwork is a unifying voice. There's 7 people, but when we make a decision, it's a common decision. So there's 7 people that they may agree, they may disagree, but when something's decided, we go forward. And I think it's semantics, but to me, I disagree. I think we serve kids and support staff and community. I think it's about kids. They don't have the voice. They can speak, they can tell us, but we are here to serve them. That's what we're here to do.
Go next. In my career, there's been a lot of people we've relocated to the Ann Arbor area, and I sort of became the de facto person that the company directed people to. And I said, look at Saline High School, look at Saline Middle School, look at all the facilities. Look at the proximity we are to Ann Arbor, to where you might have to commute and go to work. And you can't find all the assets that exceed what we have in this community. So a lot of my coworkers moved here, their children have been in the school, and not one person has looked back and been unhappy with that decision.
I think I'd like to take it just one step higher level. Who do we serve? Certainly the citizens of Saline, but if that compass is true and our mission statement is something we're actually going to accomplish, who do we serve? We serve leaders of future companies who are going to hire our students. We serve colleges and universities who are going to take our students and give them the next level of training. We serve the future of our city, of our state, of our country. Do we really believe that? Do we really want to live the mission statement? Because if we do, we serve the future of the United States of America.
Save the time for future questions.
If any audience members have questions, if they filled out the question sheet, could you please just raise your hand so we can come around? Okay. I think we'll come around and collect them now. You guys will. And if the candidates could please say their name before answering the next question, just for the new people that walked in, that would be great. Thank you.
We'll now move on to the fourth question. The question is, does the district do enough to protect students from bullying? If not, what would you like to see done? We'll start with Mr. Humble this time.
I'm sorry, does the district do enough to protect students from what? I'm sorry.
Bullying.
Bullying, okay, thank you. This is an issue that's really exploded in the last 10 or 15 years. To say that we do enough, I think, would be a fallacy. I don't know that anybody can do enough. There are programs we have in place. I know Superintendent Lotch has done a lot of things trying to incorporate new ideas. They have cards they've given to all the students. The buildings are doing different things. They have assemblies. We're trying to come up with ways to ensure that our students don't have that happen. Does it still happen? Yes. Are we still trying to prevent it? Yes. So going forward, do we do enough? I don't think we'll ever do enough. But I think that we're on the right track. I think that our staff is aware of it. I think they're cognizant. I think they're doing everything they can do to prevent it. I think the administration is doing an outstanding job of bringing it into focus, bringing it out. We've had community meetings regarding that. We've had school-wide meetings regarding that. And our students understand now and are starting to be able to speak for themselves and to speak up. And that's what's really happening now. That's where the positives are occurring. Kids are starting to understand that if I don't like something or if I feel bullied, I can say something. And even better, other kids that may be next to someone that's getting bullied or see someone being bullied, they can now speak up. So we have bystanders and upstanders, and that's really what we're trying to drive home, and we're getting there. Are we there yet? No. But are we getting there, and will we keep doing it? Yes.
Go next. I can't say that I know all the details that the school system, the procedures they're implementing. I can just tell you that we have a lot of smart people who are working to solve this problem. And I have a lot of faith that they're going to continue to solve this problem and stay on top of the evolution of this problem. So, boy, with social media, with everybody having a cell phone, with everybody texting, it really seems like there's just too many ways to bully people. And I wish there was a way we could back away from all this technology a little bit and solve problems with people just talking to each other face to face. I can remember one time in the office, we had an issue, and we finally just got the people together and said, we just got to face each other and talk about this as humans, looking each other in the eyes. So the more that we can do that, I think we're on the right path, but we got smart people. They're working to solve this. They attend conferences, and I'm sure we'll try whatever the latest and greatest is. Thank you.
I've been a vocal advocate before previous boards and before the school district for decades for safe and respectful treatment for all students. I was bullied in middle school. My son was bullied 2 years ago in Saline area schools, and I'm very glad that we had policies in place to deal with that, address it very quickly. My cynical answer is, as long as we have human beings, we will have bullying, but it's never appropriate and it's never acceptable. I want to read just a little bit of the board policy on bullying. It says, "It is the policy of the district to provide a safe and nurturing educational environment for all of its students. This policy protects all students from bullying and aggressive behavior regardless of the subject matter or motivation for such impermissible behavior." And it goes on. I firmly believe that any bullying that is extant in the district is not the fault of lack of policy. It's the fault of lack of implementing that policy properly and in all situations on behalf of all students.
Thank you.
So, obviously bullying is an issue in the school, and the school district's doing a lot to work on it. With anything, we can always do more. There's, I brought up before, I think part of the issue is a diversity issue within our school district. Many of us look the same. Many kids don't get very far beyond our borders and get to experience people that look different, think differently, act differently. And so I think that's building diversity among students and among our faculty is going to be important. And then really coming up with opportunities, educational opportunities within the schools for the staff to understand it and for the students to understand diversity, and even if we don't have a very diverse community, understanding how people think differently and how the rest of the world works is going to be important. And then really having clear expectations and clear consequences when things don't meet those expectations.
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, I absolutely agree that we aren't doing enough, and that could be difficult. So I met with a group of students who are working on social justice, diversity, and so some things that came up was, it sounds like there's some great people in the schools who are being very supportive. I don't know if all students know that they do have that support. And so, are they being heard? I want to talk about targeted groups, right? So marginalized students may experience bullying at a different level. So talking about that early on, starting in preschool, let's talk about bringing in representation of different students and different families and incorporating that in. And so I think that'll help get the conversations going. Okay. Is that me?
Thank you.
Were you done, Susan? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
I get distracted.
No, that's okay. So the question was, does the district do enough? My name's Jennifer Stebbins. Sorry, we were supposed to restate.
Thank you.
Does the district do enough to protect the students from bullying? We can always do more. I think I've heard this before. We can do more at home, and we can do more in the schools. Absolutely. This is something that I take extremely seriously. It's something the school district takes extremely seriously. There is a policy, a very, very clear policy against discrimination of many, many groups, whether it's ethnicity, gender, LGBTQ status, it doesn't matter. And as a board member, I would take this very seriously. I would work with the community to make sure that the welfare of our kids is number one. These kids feel safe and can learn in a great environment. And I would also work with the staff to help understand what resources they needed to help deal with bullying in the schools. I was talking with a former teacher the other day, and she told me about a wonderful program at Washtenaw Intermediate School District that talks about social injustices and how to kind of deal with those in your classroom. I think that would be something great to look into and see how we can give more support to staff that are seeing this. When I was at Pleasant Ridge for 4 years, I was probably in the building 3 to 4 times a week, every week. And it starts at a young age. It was very surprising. But I will also say I saw so much kindness in that building. I saw so much compassion. These kids are so capable of so many things, and we just have to give them the right resources to lead the world.
Great, thank you. And we'll now start with our rebuttals. And for those who didn't introduce themselves, please just restate your names for the people that just came. And we'll start.
Ryan Woodruff, I'll defer my time.
Oh, go ahead, Scott.
Scott Hummel. I just want to touch again, it's about, again, advocating for kids and doing what we can do to ensure that they have the best possible experience. So if we're looking at that, we're talking about assemblies, we're talking about things within class. That then goes into professional development for staff, making sure that they have the training and the resources they need to be able to provide our students the right choices and the right things to do. And then, as the Heritage slogan is, just teach our kids at home and at school, just be kinder than necessary. It's not that hard. And if we start it at home and do it at school, that's how we can break the cycle.
Richard Kahn, and I'll save the time for more questions.
Tom Frederick, and I think I'd like to say that I don't think that lack of diversity is our problem, as many have stated here. When I look around this room and I see a majority of Caucasian, probably European descent, maybe age 40 to 60 people right before me, I don't say, wow, that's a problem. That's what it is. I think the diversity of the school should naturally reflect the diversity of the community where it lives. You don't go to Brecon, Wales, our sister city, and say, we've got a diversity problem here. Everyone's Welsh. That's just what it is. With that said, I think what we need to do is respect and celebrate the diversity that does exist, instead of try to fabricate a diversity that doesn't.
Thank you.
I just have to directly address that, Tom. So, again, global citizens, so I really don't see why we would not educate on majority white community members, and we have we do have representation, and it is a minority. We have students who are part of minority race and who are going to different school districts because they don't feel welcome here. There are families who live here and send their students to different school districts because people don't look like them. So I think we need to, yes, absolutely. They're going out into the, the community working. It can't be Eurocentric,
Thank you.
all white. So.
I'm sorry to cut you off. The time was up. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Taylor Anderson, and for the people that just came in, me and the rest of us are here from the debate and speech team. And so for just so we can answer some questions for the remainder of the time, we're going to eliminate rebuttals. And so my question is, a big part of the board's responsibility is budgeting and policy making. Describe your experience and or skills in these fields.
Who's going first?
I think it's Richard.
Fine, okay. My background is finance. I've been dealing with budgets for 32 years. I was very impressed with the Saline budget. I think the variance at the end of the year was less than $100,000 on maybe 66 million or whatever the number was. So there's a lot of estimates that go into the numbers, a lot of programs that get started, and then you've got to make adjustments through the course of the year. So I was very impressed with what the Saline school system did in the last year. So that's a strength. That's a strength that I can bring to the board. As far as policies, I'm involved with HR. We have a handbook we give employees. We do training that we give employees. Some of my background has been involved with lawsuits. I've also been involved with work comp lawsuits, which is general slip and fall lawsuits and things like that. So I see at the board level, it's the wisdom of the crowd. So we bring different experiences to help Scott and his team. And we listen to presentations, or I see them listening to presentations. there's questions, and there's obviously things going on in other meetings besides what we see in the public forum. So in that process, I'm very comfortable. I've been in board meetings for over 25 years. So as far as keeping things confidential and thinking strategically, completely comfortable with that leadership responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you.
In my time here as a high school teacher for 6 of my 23 years, I was on the Saline area schools, Saline Education Association's governing board. Since I retired for 2 years, I've been on the board of a not-for-profit pediatric doctor's office in Ypsilanti. And that was a startup. We've made all the policy, the employee policy, the board policy, pretty much from scratch. We did a lot of that kind of work on the governing board as well for the Saline Education Association. As a science department chair for 12 of my 23 years, I was responsible for managing the department budget and bringing to consensus 12 to 14 very diverse opinions in the room. And as I said earlier, I sat on the High School Safe Schools Committee for 2 years with the goal of understanding issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion with a special focus on understanding and reducing causes of bullying. I think my experience as a teacher in this district specifically also lends an insight that some of the other candidates may not have regarding how things work and the best way to go for Saline area schools.
So my experience as far as finance and budgeting relates to a lot of the experience I've had within medicine. I was for many years pediatric chair at St. Joseph Mercy Hospital here in Ann Arbor. Managed a multi-million-dollar budget, as well as sitting on the medical executive committee with oversight on a lot of the budget within St. Joe's. Was a trustee, Pittsfield Township Parks and Recreation, and if you want to know, it's nothing like the TV show. It's not. But finance committee within IHA, which actually set the goals and $250 million company at that time, and also nonprofit finance committee at St. Andrews here in Saline.
Hi, I'm Susan Easted. I don't know if I got around to that. I've worked on budgets in my job, in the offices that I work at, departments. I do a lot of event planning. So I'm ordering the food, looking at the rooms, paying for speakers, that kind of thing. Also I serve as vice chair at the University of Michigan Dearborn, at a university-wide committee, and I chair the professional development committee, which is geared towards faculty and staff to supplement, what their departments aren't able to give them, to do their research, their conferences, and also we do fundraising every year as well, which brings everybody in the university, faculty and staff, to help raise funds. So I think this year we're about $8,000 to $9,000 to give to faculty and staff members to continue their education. Oh,
Great.
Cynthia.
I'm still Jennifer Stebbin. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to repeat our names each time. With respect to budgeting and policymaking, wanted to talk a little bit about my experience in both realms and also the homework that I've been doing as we've been going through campaign season here. On the corporate side, I've managed a multi-million-dollar budget for my company. I have also spent a lot of time with Assistant Superintendent Warner, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Finance. I actually have the copy of the budget here with me. Spent a lot of time with her. Thank you to her for doing that with me. Going over the budget line item by line item and really trying to understand what can the district control, what are the resources and revenues that the district can control, and what is out of our control because perhaps it's coming from state funding per pupil and tax revenue and things like that. So the audit isn't complete as far as I understand from last year, but the deficit is looking like it's a little bit over 300,000. That's the first time there's been a deficit of that size in several years. So this is a very important thing to have a lot of scrutiny around. With regards to policy, I've sat on another board in the past. It's an academic board of trustees for executive MBA. Where I was involved in policy making. Also had a good conversation with Assistant Superintendent Ellis about the policy making within the district, so I could better understand that, and how the district partners with MSOB and Neola, which is a governing body, to advise districts on how to write acceptable policy around things like bullying that we just talked about.
Scott Hummel. Looking at policy making, I was on the Dearborn Federation of Teachers, Teachers Union Executive Board for 6 years. While I was on there, we worked on staff contracts and we worked on working with administration on policy. Now granted, we had input into the policy, we didn't necessarily create it, but that was my experience in policy. As far as budgeting, I was the treasurer of that union. That was about a $600,000 operation. Again, just an education union. I am on the finance committee here for the Saline area schools. So there are 3 of us that work on that work directly with Ms. Warner to go through the budget, make sure that everything, we meet monthly, make sure everything is as it should be. As she alluded to last year, there were a couple things that came up. And the issue with budgeting is there are literally moving parts with state funding. And there's money coming in from this way, and they increase the per pupil funding, but then they take something out of the back door with a different ACT money. So it's almost like playing darts. You set the budget, you get it to where it be, and it's as good as it can possibly be until a number comes back different. And then when it did that, we got together, we met multiple times in weeks, trying to get those numbers to make sure that they were as accurate as possible. But that is my experience with the budgeting.
All right, thank you again. And the last question, again, will not have a rebuttal. So, all right. What's your motivation for running for the Board of Education?
Tom Frederick. As someone who's spent most of my life in Saline area schools in different venues, and as a father of 7 who will ultimately go through the Saline area schools, I want it to be the best that it possibly can be for my children and for everyone's children. My oldest is 16 and my youngest is 6 months. There are 5 in between, and I will be at high school graduations until the ripe young age of 70. So I'm in this for the long haul, and I have specific insights into Saline area schools because I've lived it. I've been a part of this community. I've loved every student who's come into my door, no matter what their race or gender or political affiliation or age or height was. I really think it's all just about respecting people because they have inherent dignity as human beings, and we should respect them all for that. And if that's one lesson that we learn getting through Saline area schools, we'll be doing great in the global community.
So, Brian Woodruff, I think I missed that on the last round, but my motivation is all of our kids. I live in the world of kids all day long, every day. I see the most vulnerable kids every day, and so I think this is what I live. This is what I do every day, and I think the board could use somebody that's got an expertise in learning and childhood development. And a medical background. I think there's a collective intelligence, if you look at psychology, a collective intelligence when you have varying professions and ideas and thoughts. But continuing the tradition of excellence in our schools is very important. Promoting a culture of continuous improvement, continuing to recruit and retain outstanding teachers, and once again, being a voice for all students and families, including those that are feeling marginalized.
I guess my motivation to run is my passion for education. I got my master's in educational leadership, and a big thing with working with students and support programs has to do with somebody supported me. And so I want that support to happen as early as K through 12. And so, let's see. So right now I'm facilitating a Cruise to Success class at the university, and it's freshmen. I did a lot of Title IX trainings for all of our new students, incoming students, and seeing what they don't know coming in is surprising to me. And so I want to make sure that they're prepared for college if they decide to go to college. I want to make sure that we're supporting them if they decide to take a year off and go do something else. So prepare them, whether, again, if they go community college, university, and help them be prepared and how to seek out support and be part of the community.
So I love this question. I think it's probably the most important one so far. Did anyone on Facebook see the Saline posts? Tran, it was great. The videos that he went around and did at the elementary schools with all of our kindergartners. Did anybody see that? I loved watching those. My friend Jody's daughter wants to be a leprechaun. I loved hearing what their responses were, and it just made me smile. That's why I'm doing this. These kids have the potential to solve problems, to have incredible critical thinking skills, and to just be a kid, and to give them such a wonderful experience. I loved watching those videos. It kind of reminds you why you really get involved. I started getting involved really heavily in the schools when my twins were in kindergarten, and just seeing how much the staff is invested in them. Let's be honest, teachers don't get into this for the money. They are passionate and they want to work with our kids. And I want to do everything I can to support both the staff and the students. And I think that my experience in education gives me a unique global lens into what other areas are doing in education, and to help. I'm deeply committed to Saline as well. My husband and I have lived here for 13 years, but my family's been here for almost 100. And so I'm in here for the long haul, and I think I can help.
All right. Scott Hummel, I couldn't agree more. I've literally spent my entire life in public education. My mom taught at a community college. I went to public schools. I went to public universities. I've taught in a public school district for 22 years. I've served on the board now for 2. I'm hoping to make that another 6 and then more on from that. I've literally spent my life in public schools. My motivation, or one of my motivations, is to support staff and administration, support the community, make this community the absolute best place that it can be for every single person. I think that I provide a unique skill set with my past experiences in order to do that. But at the end of the day, my main motivation, I used the number before, is 5,250. There are 5,250 kids in the Saline area schools. They are my motivation. I said I agreed with the part about teachers go into teaching for kids. That's why I'm there. That's why I'm in Dearborn teaching. That's why I'm here on the board. It's about the kids. It's about those 5,250. I start and end my day with those 2. But every other day, it's about all of them. I want them to grow into amazing adults, amazing leaders, and most of all, amazing people.
My name again is Richard Kahn, and I consider myself to be a grateful person. And in part of that attitude is that you give back. My father was a public servant. He was a police officer. He also served 1 term on the school board for Ann Arbor. So when I think about what the schools did for my children and how it prepared them, I simply think about, well, when it's my turn and I have more time than I did prior as a parent to a degree, I want to give back. The kids ran cross country, we did spaghetti nights for the runs and all that, and I love that, I miss that, I want to give back. So I'm a good listener, I'm a good problem solver, I've got some skills that can help the board We had a question on budgeting, so obviously that's a big issue. And the policies are continuing to evolve. We talked about bullying and how we're gonna solve that. So I'm here to give to the community. This has been a wonderful experience. I thank Fran and the debate team for hosting this. I didn't expect a crowd this big. So I'm ready to give back, and I will have more time than I ever have to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we got a lot of questions from the audience, and we will be ending at 8:30. As you can see, it's almost 8:15 right now. So we will not have time for all of your questions. However, Tran will be interviewing the candidates later on using the questions that you wrote. So we will have time, though, for a few right now. So thank you.
You are now. Sounds good.
At the AMA, right?
Oh, also, we are limiting now each response to 60 seconds due to time constraints. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of the topics we're going to be talking about, we got a lot of questions from the audience on specific topics, so we're just going to start blending questions together. The first is going to be on mental health of students. So the question is a blend, these two. Although Saline has some of the highest test scores, GPAs, and extracurriculars in the state, our student stress level and mental health is very high. What do you feel the school board's role is in stress and mental health? We'll start with Dr. Woodruff because he started with the first part.
Okay. Thanks, Megan. Brian Woodruff. So, high school is stressful. I have one. It's a lot of hours of work. It's very different than many of us experienced. The pressures, whether or not you have a learning disability, even at the kids at the highest level, are stressed. AP, the push for AP, I wish that wasn't as big of an issue. It's sort of beyond our school district, I don't have an answer. I'm a neurologist and boarded in psychiatry. I wish I had the answer for this, having expertise in psychiatry, and I don't. I think it's a problem across the whole United States. But looking and I think seeking out individual students as teachers and having teachers have the ability to look at kids that are struggling. I think teachers may need more tools to be able to find those kids that are struggling and pick up on that, because I think the individual connection is the most important.
Okay. So mental health is so important. And I stress this at a college level. I stress it to my family. There's a big movement to destigmatize mental health, mental illness. And so I think that's super important, starting out really young. So I went to, I believe it was last week, Crucial Conversations, and it was put on by Thrive Counseling, and it was at the Liberty School. And so there were like outstanding social workers, doctors, psychiatrists that were talking about children and talking about difficult topics and how that affects their mental health. I think we're doing great as far as providing programs. There's a video coming up called Angst, and that's going to be at the high school, and it specifically focuses on the student experience with anxiety. So when I was at the high school, I got to watch part of a class. It was 1 hour around lunchtime, and they were meditating. And so it's a breathing class that students can take, and I think that is really wonderful. But yeah, I agree with the teachers need to be in tune with that. Younger children, those stereotypes of, boys don't cry, like, don't let that happen, right? Teach the children that it's okay to be emotional, but also reach out for that support when they need it.
Thank you. Sorry, just a reminder, we're going to be having 1 minute, so that was kind of our bad, so thank you.
So the question was, what is the board's role in mental health and stress of the students within the district? I've seen this come on at a young age, right? I mean, we start testing these kids in the K-3 buildings, and they get stressed out. So I think the response to that question varies depending on the age of the child and the building that they're in. I think the board definitely should have a role in ensuring the mental health and low stress of the students. In the K-3 buildings, I think part of it is connected to recess. I think part of it's connected to movement. Last year at Pleasant Ridge, we went to 2 recesses per day. Sounds like a lot. It's actually not a lot in the world. We're in Finland, which has one of the best education systems in the entire world. They have recess or movement every 15 minutes for every 45 minutes of instruction. So I think there's a lot we can do on that level. I think when you get into the middle school, Heritage Middle School, assemblies, programs, the beginning of student groups, the beginning of resources for the staff on how they help the students to deal with this. At the high school, I would work hand in hand with the administration and student groups to ensure to lower the stress levels. Sorry, I went over.
As a board, this is something that's critical. There are a lot of students that have all sorts of pressures and anxiety. A lot of that is brought on by the schools. A lot of that is brought on by expectations, whether those are real or not. Pressure and stress can be a positive, and we need to focus on the positives that they can be. Unfortunately, there are times where we pile such demands onto our kids that they can never attain those goals. And those are the pressures we really need to look at avoiding. One of the first things I wrote down was recess. Being a PE guy, lower L, the more kids can move, the better off they're going to be. That's something we can do as a board. Middle school and high school, we now have these open areas and these common areas. Kids can get up, kids can move around, kids can talk to each other. Staff needs to be able to identify. Dr. Lodge has a wellness committee. They've looked into this. We're starting programs and doing things now to get this to go away. We want our kids to be able to speak and to be able to solve these problems with themselves.
So we have to make sure that our teachers are trained so that they can identify stress in students. So from the board level, we would inquire with Scott and his team that there is training and there is this awareness, so that should happen. Facilities level, we have the 5 and 6 in one building and 7 and 8 in another building. I'm not sure a lot of other districts have that, and that's wonderful because those middle school years can be pretty difficult when you have kids in 4 grades, so that's wonderful. Online learning, I think, is another area that takes some of the stress or anxiety away from a child that might be in the classroom. We have the alternate high school. We haven't talked about that, but that's a wonderful place for students to be if they're stressed. So I think we're doing a lot of things, but probably not enough. Thank you.
Tom Frederick, I think it's a real problem. I agree with all the other candidates. It was actually one of my strengths that I didn't get to mention was athletics and extracurriculars, but any strength taken to an extreme can become a weakness. And my kids are involved in lots of extracurriculars and athletics, the football team, the cross-country team, Future Farmers of America, and we love it. And these are the best programs in the world, and they've done great things for my kids' self-esteem. But my daughter's forehead is covered with scabs because she has anxiety about all the work that she has to do, and she's picking them off. And my son, I rode him all summer. You got an hour and a half on that stupid computer. That's all you get. Video games aren't what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Oh, Dad, I'm going to invent video games. No, you're not. Since school has started, he has not had 5 minutes a night to play video games. I look over there. He used to play video games. Just look at one screen, typing away. 12 pages of biology notes for the test. That was last night. Did great on it. But we need to be aware as teachers. We need to be aware as parents. We need to have that conversation with the students so we can get to the root of that problem.
Thank you all for your responses.
So we have one final audience question tonight. I would like to remind the candidates that they will each be given 1 minute to respond, and then after that, they will have 30 seconds to say goodbye. So this last question was asked by multiple audience members, and it is also very personally close to my heart. So how should the school district work to support and represent students in the LGBTQ+ community?
somebody else going to start this time?
You can begin with
Susan.
Devin.
Wonderful. So, sorry, I have 1 minute and then 30 seconds right away?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Everyone will get their 1 minute response, and then we will
Okay,
have 30
okay.
second goodbyes.
So when me and my family moved here in 2010, the Board of Education was taking a vote up on the non-discrimination policy with including gender and sexuality. I had an infant, a newborn, and I was like, you know what? I live in this community. I identify as queer. And I need to go out here and make sure that I'm making a better community for our students who are speaking out and saying that they need the support. And, I think we need to look at policies and best practices. Even the state of Michigan has guidelines that says, this is how you work with LGBTQ students. This is how you can be supportive. So we really need to be looking at that. We're at the level of, amazing schools, but we're lagging behind with policy and being inclusive.
Thank you.
I would say that the board should definitely support the LGBTQ community, both staff and students. I would broaden that and say, I personally and would hold the district accountable to support the non-discrimination clauses and policies that are in place overall for all groups. I think it's incredibly important. I would refer back to a comment that I made earlier about training for staff on how they can best support students in the classroom in this protected class and other protected classes as well. But yeah, I think the board should play a key role in the policymaking and the follow-up when things are happening in the schools with these students as well.
Obviously, supporting the LGBTQ community and any other group is important. As a board and as a district, we need to support everybody. It's not about singling out one group or another group. It's about all the kids and what makes those kids different and what makes those kids special and what makes those kids great. And when we identify those things, that's when we can start moving forward. Being different is good. Being different is okay. We can bring that together and we can grow as a community. We need to talk and we need to listen, especially the listen. I'm not an expert in this. I learn by listening. That's what I do. So we need to get people that know what they're talking about, get groups of kids, talk to the adults, talk to staff, talk to the board. Tell us what you need, tell us what you want. That's how the adults go forward. It's about inclusion for everybody, whether you're kid A or kid B or kid C, it doesn't matter. Everybody should and must have the same opportunities. We are here to support our kids. That came quick.
So I think at the board level, it comes down to training and awareness. So as much training as the teachers would go through, I think on a new subject like this, the board should go through almost as much training to be aware of what the issues are. So we're in the education business, and that education we have to reverse it, and it has to come back to the board level. I think if we can all be just a little less judgmental about whatever lifestyles or whatever choices people are making and focus on the good things, maybe sometimes not always the differences, but just be a little less judgmental, I think we can all make the environment better for everybody so that they can feel like they can learn, and again, back to the mission statement, so that they can be this productive person we send off to society who says, I went to Saline schools and had a wonderful education. Thank you.
Tom Frederick, the concern that was raised in the question is a legitimate concern, and I don't have all the answers to that. I do believe it comes down to, though, not separating and segregating subgroups of our student or population in general, but respecting all people. for their worth as human beings. I think when it comes down to it, we live in a diverse and pluralistic society. Lots of different views out there, religious views, secular views, doesn't matter. Since people who come from all these different backgrounds often have different values, we need to recognize that. We need to respect that. We need to communicate. We need to dialogue. We need to have mutual respect and understand each other. I believe the answer is that we can come to mutual understanding and we can respect all people on the basis of the fact that they're human beings, regardless of any other factors.
Mr. Frederick, I have to disagree with you. LGBTQ is a matter of life and death. Teens that are struggling with gender identity and gender expression are the highest rate of suicide in our high schools. And if we don't recognize it, see it, call it out, and understand it, kids will die. And we can be all, let's just everybody get along and be happy. No, this is a matter of life and death, and we need to address it. This is a mental health issue, and I'm a science and data guy, and this is the science and the data. And you can't, we're not going to go with alternative facts here. Thanks.
You may now each have 30 seconds for your closings and your goodbyes.
Oh, okay, great. Again, thank you to the students on the debate team. Thank you to my fellow candidates, and thank you for everyone for being here. I hope to see you at the polls in November. I think I can bring a lot to this community through my volunteerism, through my career in education, and I will continue to work hard for the community and for our students. Thank you.
I again would like to thank everybody for coming out and for setting up this event tonight. This is awesome. I make one promise to everybody, and I've used the number now 3 times, that I will work as hard for the 5,250 kids as I do for my 2 kids. Every day when I get up, that's my mission. That's what I'm about. I'm about the kids, and I'm about doing what's best for them. I've been truly honored to serve you for the last 2 years, and I humbly ask you to allow me to do that for the next 6. Go Hornets.
I want to thank Richard Kahn again. I want to thank Trans for organizing this and the debate team for all of your good questions and for all of you to come out. So I would love your vote. I have my signs out there. You can see my face. It's a want ad, so I'm wanting your vote. I would love to serve the community and give back, and I've talked about that. We all enjoy choices, and you have 6 wonderful choices. It's a big field. I think it's one of the biggest fields that has run. Not sure why, but you have a lot of choices, and I would encourage you to investigate and ask any follow-up questions. So I tried to campaign Saturday at Oktoberfest, but nobody heard me. So just joking. But that was another wonderful outing, but thank you.
Tom Frederick. Tom Frederick, thank you very much. Debate students, now I know how it feels to be on your side of the desk, and I appreciate it much more. Thank you, Tran, and those who set this up. Thank you to the staff of Saline area schools, the administrative staff, to the teaching staff. Thank you to all of you for coming out, and thank you all. I think we have a diversity of ideas here in front of you all, and just because we can sit here with those differences and diversity and discuss in a reasonable, respectful manner, I think we have modeled today the kind of dialogue and mutual understanding that we need to have. Nobody asked me any questions about alternative funding source ideas that I have. I don't think that we can just rely on taxpayers to always give more, and I don't think we can ever use teachers as a funding source. I have some great ideas, and I also have some good questions to ask.
So to wrap up, thanks everyone. Brian Woodruff, obviously. The public schools have been the key to my success in teachers. I grew up in a trailer park in rural Michigan, a free lunch kid. And it was teachers that mentored me, that pulled me out of that made a difference to me. And so, thanks to everybody. I look for your support.
Hi, again, my name is Susan Estep. Again, my experience is in educational leadership. I have a long-term goal to get a doctorate in education. I really think that I will be the best person to advocate at a state level for our, at a policy level, looking into best practices, looking into national and state recommendations. And I'm going to push the board members to do that, to look into that, versus, we're just going to say yay or nay. Let's look into this. I'll push the board a little. I think we need that. But also, having that good working relationship and making sure that we do what's best for our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much to everyone for coming, and see you at the polls.